G'day, folks. Everything new under the sun. Emmanuel Macron, he is coming up again, and he has his eye and his goals much higher than France as a country. He is looking to be more of a global leader. And we're going to take a look at this. This is very interesting. And he is getting to the end of his term. I was going to say reign. He's getting to the end of his presidential term in France, and he will not be able to run again for president. So that means he's turning to look, into the international sphere and to become a world leader. And it's interesting because, again, the likeness to the Antichrist and the things that are coming. And when we read the Bible, we know that the Antichrist is going to be a world leader. He seems to come out of nowhere. He's going to be liked by everybody for some reason. He is likely to be a great orator and a great politician in the eyes of the world. And he's going to bring peace, and he's going to fix the economy, at least for a period of time. And he's going to allow Israel to rebuild the third temple, and he's going to implement a world currency. All these things. And so we're looking for a great leader, and the world is calling for a great leader, for a leader to come and solve this, the crisis in Ukraine with Russia, and the crisis with China and Taiwan, and the crisis in the Middle East, Israel, Iran, and the ongoing war there. So we need a leader. The world is calling for a leader. Well, this is interesting, and we'll take a look at a couple of different things here. And by the way, just to preface, this is an article from The Guardian 2017, and it says Jupiter or just another politician. And it says he wants to rule as Jupiter, operating above political maelstrom as he delivers thunderbolt judgments and instructions. So there was this idea that that's who he wanted to rule as. So let's take a look at this. While French President Emmanuel Macron's first term was characterized by ambitious young leaders' standoffs with unions and interest groups as he sought to enact his reform agenda, his second term is markedly more international in its focus. Having made 30 international visits since his re-election in April, Macron is more likely to be seen by the French people in media reports of his globetrotting than among them, seeking to reorder French society. Aside from domestic travails, central to Macron's foreign policy ambitions is what has become known as the Macron Doctrine. Now, interesting use of terminology, right? The Macron Doctrine. Aside from having promised to reinvent the French state, revitalize its economy, and change the country's social makeup, isn't that just what the Antichrist is actually going to do to the whole world? Revitalize the economy, change the country's social makeup. That's all of what the Bible describes as the Antichrist doing. Macron hoped to build useful international cooperation that prevents war. Remember, the Antichrist is going to come in, and he's going to implement peace. He's going to get all the countries to agree to peace, and there will be peace and security in the Middle East for a period of 7 years. So international cooperation to prevent wars and addresses our current challenges. What are those? Well, the economic challenges. The Antichrist comes in and implements a world economic system and a mark of the beast system, something that goes in your right hand or your forehead, and prevents anybody from buying and selling unless you have that mark. So Macron is looking to address the very challenges and world situations that are happening right now. He says, and to build a much stronger Europe, the voice, strength, and principles of which can carry weight in its reformed framework. Macron 2.0 has sought to use the growing multipolarity of international affairs and a retirement of German Chancellor Merkel to pursue a more robust foreign policy. In Europe, now this is interesting, Macron is building a 44-nation European political community. So he's doing much more than just being a leader of France. He has a much larger and wider aspirations. Having met in October in Prague, and due to meet next in Moldova in the spring, the Intergovernmental Forum is a clear affront to a Russia that Macron once sought to engage with. As much as it concerns Moscow, the group is actually an effort by Macron to encourage European independence from Washington. So is he loved by the people because he is removing them from Washington? Certainly you look at Europe, and Europe does not like the U.S. in terms of all the money that the U.S. appears to be making from this war in Ukraine and Russia. Europe is having to buy liquid natural gas from the U.S. at elevated price, of course, and U.S. is making trillions upon trillions of dollars due to the war machine providing ammunition and such to Ukraine. Europe sees this. Europe is in trouble. They're having economic trouble, energy troubles. And what do they see from the U.S.? The U.S. is making money hand over foot. So are they looking for maybe a leader? Would they be happy if there was a leader that would stand up to Washington and get their own nations in gear? Likely. And when the Antichrist comes, people will love this guy for good or for bad. It says there are few areas of global diplomacy where Macron has not suggested his own new ideas in recent months, from global hunger. So he's going to solve global hunger. That's what the Antichrist does. He's going to come to a world in crisis, and he will promise to feed everybody, to correct the economy, to stop war, and to bring peace. And one of the main objectives, again, is peace in the Middle East. And people have said before, if only there was peace in the Middle East, there would be peace around the world. The peace in the Middle East with Israel is the cause of everything. If they had peace there, that would end all wars all around the world. And of course, that makes no sense to you and I, but people have said that before. It says, having clearly taken the opportunity to present himself as Europe's foremost leader, the president, who now lacks parliamentary majority at home, is said to be angling for an international job after he finishes. Interesting, right? It actually kind of sounds like Barack Obama. And he was, some people said he was angling for an international job. Now, nothing's come of that. But this Macron guy is certainly interesting. At 45, constitutionally preventing from running again in 2027, Macron's room to create a legacy at home is limited, and he has therefore become president of the photo opportunity, toasting with the Bidens and squeezing Recep Tayyip Erdogan to his bosom. This technique, which according to political commentator Calcutt, forces the hand of other participants but sometimes undermines the credibility of his initiatives, is actually serving another purpose altogether. What? Well, it's to position the president for a top job in his upcoming, not even a question, but his upcoming career as a global elder statesman. Wouldn't that be a great title for the Antichrist? The Global Elder Statesman, someone who can pull us up out of this economic trouble and feed the world and fix hunger and stop all the wars and bring peace. Again, what does the Antichrist do? Well, 2 Thessalonians 2:4 says, who opposes and exalts himself against every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, proclaiming himself to be God. And so we have this story of him saying that he wants to rule as Jupiter, which is the Roman god Jupiter. So fascinating. Again, this was from 2017, this particular article. Yeah, I thought it had an image there, but anyways, so there you go. So has a god been spoken of in relation to Macron? Absolutely. Does the Antichrist want to be a god and declare himself to be one when he sits on the throne in the third temple? Yes, he does. Revelation 13:16-17, and it causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. That is the name of the beast or the number of his name. Does Macron want to fix the world economy? Yeah, he wants to solve hunger. He wants to fix all the trouble in Europe and the economic chaos that's happening. So and all politicians would want to do that, of course. But interesting that he is striving for this world leader position. 2 Thessalonians 3-4 says, let no one deceive you in any way, for that day will not come unless the rebellion comes first. A man of lawlessness is revealed, a son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself against every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes a seat in the temple of God, proclaiming himself to be God. That is, 2 Thessalonians verse 4 there, which we read already. But again, that day will not come unless the rebellion comes first and the man of lawlessness. So, will Macron ultimately be possessed? Is there any similarity to the Antichrist. Certainly an interesting article about Macron, really, coming to the end of his presidency, not able to do anything again there, but putting 44 nations together, trying to be the elder global statesman. That is his career path, and he's only 45, so he's got a number of years to make that happen. So interesting stuff for this Macron guy. Again, some guy to watch. I mean, I don't know, and nobody knows who the Antichrist is. We won't know until he's possessed by Satan himself. But I think there's some indications and there's some moves. And when you look at the leaders on the world stage, who is most likely and who is looking to do the things that the Antichrist does, that the Bible says the Antichrist is going to do in the last days. And certainly, so far, the aspirations of Macron fit that bill currently. May not be him, but he's an interesting character.